Boom. Good morning. Thanks for being here, you guys. Um,
We're in my office.
Happy December 1st. Yeah. Yeah, I love beginnings and endings. I spent some time yesterday reflecting on the month of November. And actually, every time you get to the end like this, man, you realize how fast life is flying by. Anybody else notice that? This year is flying, and the years seem to get faster and faster. So I took some time to reflect on November and what I was grateful for in November, what I was proud of, and what I was maybe frustrated with or any regrets. And man, good time for reflection. So then today, start a new month. And the last month of the year, it's a really good chance to pause and say, how am I going to finish the year? How do I want to finish the year? So anyways, welcome to December.
And to my office.
And to Rachel's office. Voila.
Because Greg's office is being painted.
This is where the magic happens, right here. It's not my office. It's right here. This is where it happens. So, how's everybody doing? I love that you have your initials on there, and it's AI. That's super awesome. Not to be confused with artificial intelligence, but that's pretty cool that that's here. Okay, ready? Let's dive in. So, I kind of want to start with a scenario.
The topic? You want to say what the topic is?
No, but they all know anyways, but we'll pretend they don't. So I want to start with a scenario. I want you to picture a woman who's starting a business. And she's, wants to be a business owner.
And she has to bootstrap.
And she's bootstrapping, right? And so, but the business is succeeding and growing. And she's getting more clients and more work and more demands.
So she's now starting out, she's creating the product, obviously, or the service. She's doing the marketing. She's creating the sales pages. She's
making the calls, closing the sales.
Closing the sales.
She's running the errands.
The bookkeeping. She's ordering the office supplies. She's
answering emails, all the customer
payroll,
service. Yep.
Hiring employees. Actually, no. Oops. No, she's not doing that. Wait, no. We're going to get to that.
So the business is growing and growing and growing, but she keeps thinking, I have to do it all myself.
Well, you do have to do it all. Very often you do have to do it all yourself when you're starting a business. Like, that's not uncommon. That is a real thing. You have to do it all yourself because the business is new. You don't have money from it to hire help or hire people to do things for you. So you are doing it all yourself. You have to do it all yourself.
So
but
then
at some point,
the business outgrows her. What is your advice? What would you say to this woman who now her little growing business has outgrown her? What advice would you give to her? And you can just turn on your mic and say it, or you can throw it in the chat. What advice would give to you? We'll pretend she's your friend, and she starts this business. It's exploding, and she's still doing everything. And she comes to you, and she's like, I am swamped.
I'm stressed. I'm overwhelmed. I'm doing everything myself.
I don't have any time for myself. I don't have time for other things, like all the stuff I used to like to do. I don't have time for my health. Like, what do I do? Like, the business exploding. And there it is. Amy said, get help. Hire someone. Get a virtual assistant, right? And delegate. So, and then
there's this, of course. Yes. We have the money to hire help, but we don't get any response to help wanted ads.
Yeah.
It's a huge issue here in St. George and everywhere, pretty much. Restaurants are closing because, yes, you're right. That is a problem.
That's a huge problem right now. It's really bizarre. Isn't that the weirdest thing in the world?
Yes, it's bizarre.
Like, there was this time period where, like, people, I remember not long ago, people were complaining, can't get a job. Nobody can get a job in this country. And now it's like,
can't hire
nobody can hire an employee in this country. Like, what is going on? And you're right, there are businesses literally closing their services because they don't have enough workers. I mean, it's craziness. But
this is a hypothetical situation.
In this hypothetical situation where you do have money, the advice would be, and it makes sense in business, doesn't it? I think all of us would be like, hey, get some help. First thing you need to do is you need to hire somebody. And then once you have hired people, even if you've got more employees, like, you've got to delegate. In the business world, it just makes sense. It's kind of a no-brainer. On the business side of things, you're like, yeah, I mean, it's, from the outside, you're like, I can see, like, you need to do this, right? And it makes a huge, huge difference. Oh, this is cool. I've already hired 2 of my daughters full-time. Good for you. That's so cool. We're hiring our kids too, getting them to work. And we're hiring our kids' friends because they're like, yeah, we'll work. So the transition we wanted to make today is, like, in business, we see it so clearly. We're like, yeah, I mean, clearly you need to hire some help and outsource and delegate. But interestingly, when it comes to family and leading your family, I think all of us could safely argue that running a household can even be far more work than starting and running a business. Because you start your family and it grows. Your little family starts to grow like your little business starts to grow. But what's interesting about family is it never stops. It is a 24-hour job.
I'm like, you never stop having kids? What?
Your little family never stops growing. No, but it just goes all the time, right? And so the demands are always there. There's no work hour. You don't have office hours. You don't have, like, hey, store's closed. Sorry, we'll take care of you tomorrow. It doesn't happen. Rachel and I had the blessing of getting this at 3 a.m. on the dot. And I was like, so I went out, and it was a cute little stage.
That was last night?
Yeah.
Oh, I was asleep.
No way. Oh, that's amazing, babe. I thought, okay, so I was the only one that was awakened by a cute little girl, 3 o'clock, and I was like, nope, go back to bed. And then I laid back down trying to go back to sleep, but I couldn't sleep, so I laid there thinking for like 45 minutes, and I got up, and I started my morning routine at 3:45. It was awesome.
Oh, wow.
It was a really, really great morning so far. And she slept peacefully the whole time. But the point is, like, we have so much to do.
Well, and kind of like starting a business, when we start out, obviously we're doing everything ourselves, and we feel like we're very busy because we go from being childless people to having children, and it's very time consuming. It's demanding on our energy and resources, and it feels overwhelming, but we grow in our capability to be able to do more and do more. And as your family grows, guess what you're talking about, it never ends. It is growing. As your children get bigger, as you have more children, your responsibilities grow. And it's like you just continue to expand what needs to be done. And that's just how it works. That's just how it is. There's not really anything you can do about that. I think it just continues to expand and grow. And you are required to do more. Which is a good thing, because it helps you grow, and it helps you develop, and it helps you develop more skills and capabilities, and all of that's positive. But
at what point, because you can grow and expand, but at what point, you guys, does the demand exceed, like, real actual abilities to do it well, especially to do it well without neglecting health or marriage or hobbies,
stability.
Your sanity, like all the interruptions we're having right now.
Yeah, really. I'm not accustomed to us coaching in this office. So as this grows, your responsibilities, the demands on your time, on your energy, and this then of course ties into the topic for today, that in order to continue this is the irony. In order to continue growing and to continue expanding and to continue to be more and to have better relationships, because I think it's a key to that, having better relationships, having better finances, having better just lifestyle in general, there reaches a point where you need to outsource. And that's obviously the topic for today, is outsourcing from home, because we're familiar with the idea of outsourcing in business. Like if you're busy, you're trying to do everything, what do? You hire someone, you get a virtual assistant, right? But we don't often consider that as a solution to family demands, family challenges, because we've been and this is one of the things we're definitely going to cover today. We've been ingrained, we've been taught as a society and conditioned, especially in Western culture, which is, primarily United States, United Kingdom, Australia, and other European countries. We've primarily been conditioned to believe that if you hire help, something's wrong with you. Like you can't handle it all. You're not capable enough. You're not strong enough. You're not good enough. You're not whatever, fill in the blank. So we don't have this automatic idea or belief that there comes a point when we should be hiring help for our own household and our own home. And we kind of associate it with this idea of being wealthy, like only the wealthy people can afford that. When today, especially, it's becoming more and more obtainable for many people. So that's an introduction there. And we want to dive into like, how do we do that and where can we do that? And we're touching on why do we do that, but also really emphasize why, because I really think that I know for us, this is a key part in us being able to do everything that we do, to maintain family stability, maintain family, I want to use it's like it removes friction from family life, because when as the parents, and especially as the mother, you don't feel constantly overwhelmed, stressed, run down, that helps you to have better relationships with your spouse, with your children, because you have more to give. You're not drawing from an empty well. You have something within you because you're not the one doing it all.
That right there, that one thing is worth this whole concept, this whole idea. If you can outsource so that you can have some of you left over, exactly. Right? But what's interesting is if you go talk to your mom, or you go talk to your neighbors and the girlfriends or whoever, the usual response is, it's just the way it is. That's parenthood. That's family life. Sure is tough. But it wasn't like that. It's only been like that for a few generations.
That's the perspective that we want to bring, because one of the things we definitely learned through our travels was that, first of all, it's not like that in every country. There are a lot of countries that may not be able to hire help, but they have extended family support, which is huge.
Because they all live close together.
Exactly. They either live together or they live close by, so that they have this extended net of family to rely on, to call on for help, for guidance, for all of this. And that when you read and study history, that's how it often was for thousands of years. Yep. Like we lived in communities where we had a lot of support. And so it's very unique to our society today, Western society especially, to be so isolated as a nuclear family, where it's you and your spouse and your children, and it falls on the shoulders of mom and dad to do everything that has to be required, connected with all of that. Unless, of course, you send your kids to school, and then that's a form of outsourcing. You're outsourcing education. If you homeschool, it's even more demands.
It's more burden. Let's take on more.
Yeah. And so to think that, especially homeschooling families, we do our education coaching, and we are talking about this a lot. If you're a homeschooling family, you definitely need to be outsourcing.
So you just took on another full-time job. You had a full-time job already, and then you took
full-time
on multiple full-time jobs. Okay, so what I want to do is,
Well, but
I want to hit that right there. I want to ask a question, because the first question is like, what are the obstacles? Why wouldn't you do it, or why wouldn't a mom or dad? Why wouldn't you as parents outsource? What are the obstacles? And so there's already a couple in the chat box. Throw some more in there, you guys. What are the obstacles? And if you start reflecting right now, and you're like, okay, I should hire someone, what comes up? And I'm working with my clients, it comes up a lot. And so I want to share some of those things and kind of work through those, because they become obstacles, or we have these ideas or beliefs or real genuine obstacles that it prevents us from getting the benefit, there's massive benefits that are just on the other side of those obstacles.
Emotional,
so sometimes
physical, mental, spiritual benefits,
financial benefits, right? Like so many benefits. Life can be so much richer and fuller and more enjoyable, and you actually do a far better job at your most important roles because you're not taking care of all the other roles that anyone really could do. So what are those obstacles? So there's a couple in here, but you guys share other ones as they come up, like share them in the chat with us or jump on mic. And here's one. So I struggle with the idea of outsourcing when it adds expenses to the budget when I'm not bringing in income. Okay. Ooh, that's a good one, right?
That's a real one, obviously.
So if the husband's the provider, or vice versa, I know we have friends, the wife's now, her business is exploding and dad's come home, right? But he should be outsourcing, right? But you're like, can I afford, do I add an expense if I'm not bringing in income?
Yeah, and I understand the idea cognitively, but there's some sort of guilt with it.
Right. Not
Not only with the idea of actually outsourcing, but then of course with the idea of adding expense to the budget when you're not personally bringing in income. And then we've got some other great quotes, or questions, but let's start with this, comments. So first of all, this is why we do not use this office most of the time. I don't know if you can hear that, but it's like pounding elephants.
We've outsourced chaos control to our 16-year-old, and he runs through the house like a rhinoceros. Yes. And you can hear the little ones running and screaming, and you can hear him chasing, and it's like the T-Rex chasing the little thing, grabbing it, and then the sound goes away for a minute.
Okay. Anyways, so this is one frame of reference I like to use to help, especially mothers or the non-income producing partner in the relationship. I like to bring up this framework and to use this framework in your life and your marriage, because it helps us with this idea of adding expenses to the budget and whatnot. So, and what this framework is the idea that even if you are a non-income producing person in your family, you are still bringing value to the relationship and to the family. And I'm talking about monetary value, not just, the benefit of what you do. You are bringing monetary value.
You're not talking about like being eye candy.
No, I'm not talking about that. And I'm not talking about like making you your food, and that's valuable.
And you make good food. Like, this is great, babe.
No, I am talking about monetary value. Because here's the thing, every single person in this world either has to do the work themselves, and that includes everything. That includes cleaning your toilet. That includes making yourself food, or shopping for the food, or cleaning the house. Like everything that has to be done, wearing clothes, you have to do it yourself, or you have to hire someone to do it. Now, sometimes we feel like we're not hiring someone to do it because our spouse does it for us, but really we are hiring them to do that, because then
there's a cost.
We're working, we're doing the work, which then covers their living expenses, which essentially is hiring them to do that work for us. So it's not that there is no cost involved in what you are doing. There is a cost. There is a monetary value there. What you're doing in the house with the children, with the family, with the household responsibility has monetary value. So when you're outsourcing, or when you think about outsourcing, it's not, oh, we can't afford to hire this because I can do it for free. Because no, you're not really doing it for free. It's, you've got to think about it like, if we hire someone else to do this work that I am now doing, can they do it better? Can they do it cheaper than me doing it? And what else can I do with that time?
There, that's it.
If I have someone else doing it. If I can do something else that brings even more value, and again, that could be actually earning income, that could be doing a higher value activity, right? Because everything, and this includes the household work, everything you do has different varying levels of monetary value. So running errands or grocery shopping or cleaning the stove, they all, if you were to sit down and itemize them and think through it, they would all have a different monetary value. And some of them are going to be more valuable than other activities. So if you can do the higher value activities, like maybe managing the finances or, just being the manager of the household jobs and chores, those are higher level activities, meaning they're more executive level if you want to think of it in a business sense. And so hiring someone to do the lower level activities, like mowing the lawn or getting your groceries delivered,
doing the dishes, doing the laundry, like running the errands, like think of all the lowest level stuff and think, okay, if I were to outsource that would actually be really cheap. I could just get anyone super inexpensive to do that. And the first place to do is your kids. Actually,
starting with your kids.
Hire your children to do the lowest level stuff, and that actually starts to free up a ton of time and space and energy. And you can start way younger than you think. I think on some chores, kids can learn how to do chores well and start helping out. And you're like, I don't have to do that anymore. It's amazing.
I literally told my 7-year-old this morning, I told her to go get dressed, because every day I'm reminding her, okay, your morning routine is get dressed, brush your hair. And she said, I don't have any clothes to wear. I said, well, you need to wash them then. If you don't have clothes to wear, that's your fault because you're 7 and you're old enough to do your own clothes. But, we can train our children to be more responsible for themselves. But here's what I wanted to add. Because I was thinking about this. I remember the time in my life when I literally felt so busy doing all the stuff, all the laundry, all the dishes, all the vacuuming, all the cleaning, all the cooking, like everything, that I had no time to think.
To even be
or
yourself.
To even be.
Yeah.
And the amazing thing that happens when you start outsourcing some of these things and you have more time to be, first of all, you feel better about yourself, you're happier, but you also now have space and brain capacity to start envisioning and dreaming and planning and thinking about what it is you actually really want, and then creating the plans to really make it happen. So this is one of the most powerful benefits or outcomes of outsourcing, is that you get to take on that executive role of being the family planner, right? The family organizer, the family designer, to be able to think of new things and dreams and ideas and possibilities and have the space and freedom to be able to make those come true. Very often when we're dealing with people and coaching people, not like in a name, we have to deal with it now. When we are working with people and coaching them, one of the biggest obstacles to creating a more fulfilling lifestyle, an amazing lifestyle, is that you're so busy just doing the daily living activities. And so this is why
that's super common.
Yes, very common. So this is why the outsourcing piece of it is so critical, because it gives you the mental freedom and capacity to think about bigger vistas and more long-term ideals.
And it adds so much value. I do want to say one thing from a man's perspective in a traditional model where the husband's kind of out earning, right? Because again, this is one of the situations. If the husband's out earning, the wife's like, oh, I feel bad having any expenses. I'll say this from my perspective and lots of men I've worked with. The well-being of my wife and therefore our marriage and our family is a massive contributing factor to my earning ability. I know that's going to sound weird, but if she's off, it affects my ability to do anything and everything, right? But to work. And I've heard so many men say this. This isn't like me, or it's not
Unique
rare.
to great
It's
men.
not unique. Like when she's off, it's like I can't even focus. I can't do my best work. I'm like, ah. And so then I go to work worrying about her. I come home from work and hear how her day was. I'm like, oh. And it's like consuming my bandwidth.
Mm-hmm.
And so her consumed bandwidth starts to consume my bandwidth.
Right.
And none of us are functioning at our highest ability or capability or levels, right? So if she's dialed in and is good and like can be her full self, and the kids, the family, the house, everything's awesome, I have almost been unleashed now to go earn. And actually when she's on top of it and I can support her in that, it actually empowers me to earn more and to excel, to just really rock it in the business world and in the marketplace, because there's not a drain from this side. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So her being in a great place actually helps me be in a great place in the workplace.
Right. And so if I can come to my husband and I can say, honey, I've just been thinking about it, and I've been stressed or whatever lately, and here's all the roles I'm trying to fulfill. And I've done this before. I've been like, I'm this role and this role and this role and this role and this role, and all of these jobs could be a full-time job, and I'm trying to fulfill all of these jobs. I just have to outsource some of these.
And before she says that, the husband's like,
oh,
what's the big deal? I would love to stay home and just be the dad. All you gotta do is clean up the house a little bit and take care of the kids. Make sure that's so easy. What are you stressed about? And then she sits me down. She's like, here's all the things I do. I'm like, okay, well, clearly I wasn't aware of that. Didn't cross my mind. Right. So some of it you got to communicate to your husband, like, hey, this is all I'm doing here, buddy. And he's like, oh, I thought you were just like staying at home watching Netflix and make sure the kids fed themselves some Cheerios. Right.
And I've even tracked my time. And so if you track your time and you're like, this is how much time I spent, you could even go this far. I've done this before where I'm like, okay, I'm a cook and I spent this much time per day cooking, meal prep and cooking. And then you look that up. How much does that cost? What's the basic average wage for, first of all, I mean, in a restaurant, they're separated, a meal prep and then the chef, like it's different rates. Boy. And then the busboy, right? And then the dishwasher. Like, what is the average rate for that job? And you can.
My guess is you ladies are earning way more than your husbands with all your jobs.
Right, exactly. But it's true. Like, if you have to do that to justify it to yourself and your husband, do it. Go through that process because it's extremely valuable and it's very confidence boosting. Because you're like, wow, I actually do so much work and the value I provide is a lot. So you feel that you have some sort of negotiating power to be like, you know what, this job, my value is like $30 or $50 an hour at least, and mowing the lawn we could hire for $20. So we should be hiring someone to mow the lawn, or we should be hiring someone to, or my favorite, okay? I don't know why every mom, and especially homeschooling mom, does not just get their groceries delivered. There's so many grocery delivery services now. Like, why would you ever go shopping unless you go by yourself and you enjoy it and it's like a recovery, rejuvenating thing? Great. But otherwise, I just add everything to cart on my app and I have it delivered to the house. Like, that's a very cheap way to outsource your time.
That was pretty awesome. The doorbell rang the other day.
Yeah.
I walked over, I picked up all the groceries, I walked back, and I was like, in my mind, I was like, grocery shopping done.
Yes, exactly. Well, you had to put it away. That was like 5 minutes, But that's how quick and easy it is. You think of something, you add it to cart. I have saved hours of my life by no longer going to the store to go grocery shopping. I outsource that.
So use all of that to help your husband as a couple, like get a clear understanding of everything you're both doing. Like get really clear about that and use those persuasion skills. And if you have to, pull out the card and be like, babe, I'll also have a lot more time and energy for you. And that's a done deal. Like he'll pull out his wallet and like hire whoever you need, babe.
Get whoever you want. Well, but I was just going to say, I really do encourage you to add a monetary value to it. Like it is very valuable for both of you in the relationship to have a monetary value on the work that you do in the home. It's so empowering. So
anyways, one more thing.
Yeah.
That I don't want to forget.
And then we'll get into the next comments.
So I've had the privilege of working with youth for over 2 decades. And I get to take them on adventures. I've done wilderness adventures and backpacking trips and international adventures. And I get it. Like you take a kid on an adventure away from their family, away from their environment, away from their parents, and you put them in a stressful situation, you get to know that kid, right? And you get to hear all about it. And what's interesting is working with youth for so many decades, I saw these patterns. And one of them that's super relevant to this topic is I realized that these teens were coming, and we just in conversation would come up. I'd realize their moms, as they were teenagers, their moms were still doing everything for them. So like the first baseline level of outsourcing is train your kids to take care of themselves. I was shocked. I still am. This still comes up all the time. I'll meet 16, 17, 18-year-olds, and they're like, oh yeah, my mom does my laundry, my mom cleans up, my mom cooks for us, my mom runs me errands, pays for this, pays for that, pays for this. And I was like, that mom has no life because she's still doing everything for a totally capable teen that could do it. But what's interesting is the teens are often completely incapable and incompetent. They don't know. I mean, I can't even tell how many times we've met teenagers. They have no idea how to do a load of laundry. They couldn't boil water. And I mean, they couldn't do all this stuff. I'm like, what? Who? And they're like, yeah, my mom comes in, she'll clean up my bathroom, every week. And I'm like, and she'll do my room, my clothes. I'm like, what? No, moms, no. So the first basic step of outsourcing is get your kids to do their stuff. Then the next level is get your kids to do more than just their stuff. And then we kind of outsource from there. But I wanted to throw that in, like, mamas, please, 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 as soon as your kids are capable of taking care of things for themselves, that's now their responsibility. And you keep training them so they do it well. So I know some of you, your barrier is, yeah, but they don't do it as well as I do. I know that's your barrier for some of you. And I get it.
I get it.
She gets it. That was her beef all the time. It's like, I'll just do it because I can do it better. I'm like, yes, but we've got to keep outsourcing. That's a form of outsourcing.
Well, and then there's some great comments.
We missed a lot.
I know, but hold on. These are related. Can I outsource the training of my kids to do the chores? It's such a pain, but I know it's worth it. It just zaps a lot of energy.
Yes, it's Marie Kondo. Watch Marie Kondo episodes.
I was going to say.
And Hoarders.
No, but in a way, yes.
Yeah, totally.
If you I find that teaching the principles behind it helps it to not be so energy draining. If I watch, and that's very specific because we've done that exact thing. First of all, I read The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. In fact, it's sitting right there.
Have your kids read it.
Well, yeah, you probably might have to pay them to read it because they're not necessarily interested in it. But
$10 that's spent right there.
Pay them to read a book like that, and then they're going to be like, oh, yeah, I think I'm going to take care, because it's convincing, right? I think I'm going to take better care of my stuff. Then, of course, we watch the episodes I think it's on Netflix. She has some Netflix episodes about it. And then you contrast that with episodes of Hoarders. That right there, like that's the primary motivating force behind my children. I've told them, do you want to be tidy or do you want to be a hoarder? Like, which one do you want to end up as?
And you're watching real life scenarios.
Habits. Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Oh, those are great.
So you teach the principles, and teaching principles is a form of outsourcing because it's providing internal motivation for your children to want to do things. My children want to, now they don't always do it. I still have to remind them, but they want to be neat and tidy. because they've seen the contrast.
So
That right there is powerful.
I have never thought about this before. Your question just sparked it. YouTube, you guys, has everything on there.
Ooh.
And so, yes, you can outsource the training of your kids. I'd never thought about this before.
But there's videos,
like, just have your kids say, well, Google how to do the laundry. And they'll go do it. They'll watch training videos and Google how to clean your room and make your bed. How do you make your bed like a pro? Search that on YouTube. I've never searched that, but I guarantee you right now, if we got on and said how to make your bed like a pro, like there would be details about tuck here, do this, design. How do I decorate my room? How do I make my whatever, the living room look awesome? Like you're going to be able to get on there for free, find so many resources, anything you want them to do in the house. Like how to do yard work, how to make the lawn look awesome, how to get the cool lines across my front yard like they have at the baseball stadiums. Like whatever, you can find that on YouTube. And so yes, in a very real way, you can outsource the training of your children to YouTube.
Yes.
Don't let them watch cat videos, but.
So then the how, that would cover the how, and then essentially your job would be inspiring the why, which is what we talked about with like the orders. So when you inspire that why, though, it's
relevant.
It's relevant to them. They feel that, yeah, this matters. I'm not doing this because mom says to do it. I'm not cleaning out my room because mom wants me to clean my room. I'm cleaning out my room because it matters to me, because I want to be a tidy person instead of a messy person.
And I think that's because the rest of the comment is it's such a pain. And it zaps a lot of energy. I think that's the energy and the energy zapper and the pain point is in the kids' head. They're like, I would rather do this, but mom wants me to do this. And so it's this, right? They don't get it. So help them get it. And then the pain and the energy suck's gone because you're like, they're like, oh, I don't want to do that.
Like conflict, you're simply then reminding them of a motivation they already have. So you're pushing them. It's like you're giving them a slight push and then off they go because they're like, oh yeah, I want that, instead of do this because I said so, because you have to do it.
So then it's just a power struggle.
It's a power struggle.
That seems irrelevant.
Instead of a coaching and mentoring relationship where you're teaching them the importance and then reminding them to maintain that habit. If that makes a difference.
Yeah, Mary, you're right.
They might, yes, that's a good thing. They might end up being better than me at those jobs. Then you've done your job well.
Fantastic.
If they get better than you at it,
send your kid down some kind of skill set and they come back and just rock star awesome. You're like, you are amazing. Like our daughter, our oldest daughter was like notoriously messy and cluttered. And she now works as like a route supervisor for this cleaning company, cleaning these mansions. That girl knows how to clean and do a great job. And she's like training others. So she came home to visit. She's like, let's get this done. And now she has that skill set, right? It's amazing. And that's just one of those examples.
Even though her nature is still messy, and that still is the case, she just learned the skills of cleaning and organizing. She's naturally still messy, but
now she's conditioned and trained herself. Like she walked in and she's like, oh, okay, let's get this cleaning product and this thing, and that needs to look like that. I mean, she's conditioned herself now to like a standard. It was really awesome. Stephanie just found a bathroom cleaning video on YouTube.
Perfect.
Oh, yeah.
And then she also said, dealing with the teens who get adamant about not doing their jobs is draining.
Yep.
Yes.
So switch that.
In that case, it's just a matter of finding that internal motivation and at times using external motivation to keep them going. So for example, I've done a lot of different things and I have charts and, all that kind of stuff for chores. My younger kids are using those, but my teens at this point, like the system we have is very basic. I have a reminder on my phone for when chores should start. And when it goes off, I send them a text message saying time for chores. And then I'll tell them what I want them to do that day. They do it whenever they want, but when they do it, then they get a keto popsicle or some creme brulee. Like that's just how it works. That they want one of those, we buy them, and then we say, you're not allowed to have those until after you've done your chores. So it's a very basic system, but it works, and they're internally motivated because we've had the conversations and the talks about being neat and tight. So that's been covered. They already have that as a basis. And then they've got that external reward, which all of us need that. All of us like that. All of us work by that.
You get an immediate
benefit.
Yeah.
And so we like, okay, do your chore, and then you get to have your keto popsicle or your little treat.
So find, it's so simple. Find something they like that, I mean, each of those costs like $1. Like, are you kidding me? Like, it cost me $1 for you to do your chores today? Gladly.
Yeah, exactly.
Have two. This is awesome.
No,
right?
not two.
No, not two.
Unless you do two chores.
Stick to rules. But then you got to follow up. So yeah, this battle with your kids of getting stuff done, there are some just tiny little tweaks you can do where you remove yourself from the drama. You're no longer reactive.
The energy drain.
It's like, hey, you teach them why they need to have a clean room and why they need to help out and be part of the family team.
Oh, we just had a devotional. Sorry, I'm interrupting for a second. We just had a devotional. This is an ongoing thing, and we just had another devotional yesterday, I guess, about responsibility. And that wherever you are now, it's not good enough to get you through next year and the year after that. And especially when you become an adult, like, you've always got to be leveling up your responsibility. And so when we have those regular discussions about these topics, I mean, you should have seen the chores yesterday, and there was extra chores, and it was awesome because we had that reminding conversation about why this matters, why it's important. They're learning how to do chores and to manage their selves and their room and do these things around the house, not just because mom and dad want it done, but because that's how you learn to be an adult. That's how you become more responsible. And so it's actually, if you teach them that they doing, what's the grammar on that? I don't know. That them doing the chores around the house is benefiting them, then that becomes more motivating, because it's not just about top-down control. It's personal empowerment that's helping them develop into who they want to be.
So in a very tactful way, you have to remove you from the equation.
Exactly.
Like, hey, this isn't about me and what I want. Then all of a sudden there's no more power struggle.
Yes,
they're like,
that right there is key.
I'm not doing, like, oh, it's not about me.
Not about me.
Oh, whatever.
Like, I like having a clean house and I can clean it, but this is about you learning how to be an adult and decide which kind of person you want to be. You want to be like Marie Kondo, or you want to be Hoarders? And you could be somewhere in between, obviously, but which spectrum, on the spectrum, where do you want to be closer to?
And then getting them to buy into family standards and how do you want to live, and go visit other families and how they do life. And then afterwards say, did you notice the difference? Right? There's a different feeling when something's neat and elegant and nice. Again, you're teaching all these principles, and then once they bought into the principle, and you keep repeating it, like Rachel said, that's been our superpower. Is like, we just keep repeating it and try different strategies and change them up to get what works. But man, once you get that working, then there's no more drama. There's no more power struggle.
Mm-hmm.
There's no more energy drain of trying to get the kids to do it. They just do it. And you got to follow up.
They still need your reminder, but they do it with less work because they have the belief that supports it. Okay. Buy a course, Mother Like a Boss cleaning course, help my kids. Fantastic. Yeah.
Nice.
Absolutely. All of that can help. Okay. So let's see. Oh, I love grocery delivery. It puts a smile on my face every time I see the groceries on my front steps. Best change we made. Yes, it's so true. I love grocery delivery and Amazon. I never go to the store unless I want to go shopping for fun. Otherwise, I order everything. Between Amazon and Walmart grocery delivery, I don't have to leave the house. Unless I want to.
Keep going up. No, keep going up, because it'll make sense. We're trying to catch up on all these.
Okay, right here. Yes.
Yes.
I have an easier time asking for help from my mom. However, my husband has some hesitation with having her help because he's worried about taking advantage of her. Right. But yet I know she wants to help. Now, in a case like that, I think if you know she wants to help, and especially if she's in a period of her life where she may not have a lot of other responsibilities or things to do, maybe, I think that it's perfectly fine to take advantage of that, not in a bad way, but just to use that, because then that means your mom is feeling a sense of purpose, feeling a sense of contribution and being able to help with your family. And that's only a positive thing in my mind, as long as it, she's not actually being taken advantage
Right. If it's a sincere thing, because I can see myself in the spot, like you get older and now you're like, man, I have more free time. And I remember what it was like when I had little ones. Like, that was exhausting. Gosh, I would love to go help out because I get to connect with my kids and grandkids, and I get to help lighten the load. If it's sincere and genuine and there's true bandwidth available, that's a beautiful thing. Again, right, we start feeling guilty about it because it's now in the last few generations, the nuclear family's so independent, you feel bad that family members help. But for like thousands and thousands of years, that's the way it's always been. In many cultures, it's still that way. Like
Latin cultures,
aunts and uncles, grandma, grandpa, cousin, they're all helping out all the time. And nobody's like, I feel guilty you're helping. It's like, this is how it's done.
This is just how it works. This is how it is. So I think that's a great thing. And it's just, I think having that conversation with your husband of, this is giving her a sense of purpose and meaning, and that's positive. Okay. How many hours we do spend learning something like herbalism, for example, etc., when we could hire an herbalist to help us with specific health issues.
Oh my goodness.
That is a great example, and it's true. Now, unless you like, if that's something you really enjoy and you want to do that and you want to know more about it, great. But yeah, you're right. If we're like, oh, I need this thing, and so I guess I better spend hours and hours and hours and hours learning about it to become an expert,
or even just to understand
the basics.
So you guys, I really want to emphasize this. That right there is a form of outsourcing that literally turns decades into days and turns months into moments. That is a perfect form of this, where you're just like, you know what, I could read 10 books on this, or I could make a phone call. Right? And like, you pay the money to hire someone, like, boom, and they've been spending years and years and years studying this stuff. Like, hey, this is the thing. This is what I want done. How can I do it? Or you're like, I could fix the car, but it takes me 14 hours and it's a 3-hour job.
And right? A lot of frustration and anger.
And broken knuckles and anger, throwing things. Like, I had the most miserable day of my life trying to figure out how to get that bolt off.
And we say this because when we started out our marriage, Greg would fix the cars. Like, that was his job. We wouldn't take them to get fixed by someone. He wanted to do it. And financially, that made sense at the time. But we came to a point where we're like, honey, it's not worth it at all for you to fix the cars because of the energy cost and the time cost. Just take it to get done.
And the frustration. So, I can't think of a happy moment working on a car. But like construction, where whatever needs to be done, like, wait a minute.
Yard care.
Do I really want to do this? Is there real value here for me or my children? Can I just outsource this? Here's an example. So you might want to outsource to your child to take care of the yard, but they just consistently don't do it. And then it becomes a battle, right? Yeah, the kid hates it. We have a kid that loves yard work. So we're like, dude, that's yours. We have another kid that loves other stuff. Like, hey, that's yours. Like, one of them loves painting. The other one loves construction. Like,
so he's painting.
Don't hire the construction boy to be the painter and the painter to do construction. You just create tension there. If you're like, well, my kid's going to learn how to do yard work because I want to teach him to be a hard worker, and he hates it, and it becomes this thorn in between you and this wedge. Now you're building up insane amounts of resentment and ruining your relationship just to get the dadgum lawn mowed. No, man, your kids can learn how to work other ways. If it's a source of contention and frustration, resentment, hire somebody. So it gets done, your yard looks great, you stop resenting your kid because the yard looks like crap, and he stops resenting you because you're making him do something he doesn't want to do. Now, some of you are like, but what about teaching your kids that they have to do hard things? Yes.
There's 1,000 different ways to teach that.
There are lots of ways to get that. And it's funny, I hear parents say all the time, like, no, my kids have to do chores because I want them to be hard workers. I'm like, are you kidding me? Do you think chores around your house are the epitome of hard work? Maybe that's why we have a generation of young adults that can't do anything, but they're hard workers, right? Like, let's get real about what hard work actually is. I mean, and this comes up a lot, so I'm going to bring it up. We hear parents say all the time, like, no way I'm outsourcing, because then my kids will just be lazy. They'll sit around. They'll never learn how to work. I'm like, no way. You learn how to work doing big, significant other things, right? Now, I'm not discounting. Our kids do chores, and I think there's value in that. But let's not blow it out of proportion.
But I think what you're saying, because they do chores, but this is an approach we take. We don't make them do chores that they hate doing. Greg and I don't do the chores we hate doing, okay? Like, there's some value in, yes, you have to go through this process of doing things you don't like to do, but at some point it's okay to say, I don't like doing that, and I'm not going to do it anymore. And you get someone else to do it, because guess what? There's someone out there who likes doing that thing. And so with family chores, we let them pick, like, what are the jobs you like, and you get to do those jobs. And then if there are jobs left over that no one really likes, it's like, okay, let's take turns. Let's figure out something that works for everybody, or hire someone else. But we're not forcing them to do things that they absolutely hate. Like, some people just hate vacuuming, where I love vacuuming, right? And some people hate
I'd rather destroy
doing the laundry or whatever it is. So it's great. That's another thing with reducing the energy drain on getting the chores done, is by trying to match up kids with the right jobs. Now, sometimes, well, you might hate laundry, but if you want to wear clothes, you're going to have to do the laundry, or pay your brother to do it, right? They've got to figure out a solution to that, because some things, just if you want to live, you have to do them.
So
but
I think this is worth emphasizing. We get the fact that there's times you have to do things you don't want to do. And there's some real grit and character that can be developed from those kind of things. I get it. Like, we don't want to misunderstand. Like, we believe in doing extremely hard things and doing what has to be done to get results, right? But we'll take our kids and go do something way beyond their limits, like that they choose to opt. It's, they opt into it, and it's so challenging that they come back from that and they're like, please, chores are hard. Like, this is a joke.
But, and I don't know if this is where you're going with this, but I'm going to add this in anyways. If that's your everyday experience with chores, is it's just a grind, that's not sustainable long term. You can't do, and this is just the nature of willpower itself. Like, you can't do something that's grinding and disheartening day after day after day after day without some emotional cost. And that's for you, and that's for your kids too. And so, yes, you need to be able to do hard things, but if every day is a struggle just to get the chores done, that's not a sustainable system.
And think, you guys, this idea. Think what that is costing us as individuals, as family, and as society, that we're burning up our willpower doing unimportant things, so we no longer have it.
Less important
things. Yeah, you're right, because it is important. But less important things, roll with me here for a second. What if we were all freed up to pursue our highest and best creative outlets? What if we were able to spend our time chasing our passions and our strengths and our talents? What if we created a space where we're no longer burdened by things that other people could do, so that we can do what we do best? We can do the things that only we can do. The greatest problem here is we end up neglecting the things that only we can do by doing the things that anyone can do. So a simple example of that is, anyone can take care of my yard work, but I am the only person on this earth that can do my push-ups. That's it. Nobody can exercise for me.
Read, or
nobody
meditate,
can learn
or
for
pray,
me.
or
Yeah, exactly. Nobody else
spend
can,
one-on-one time with your child
or your spouse, right? Nobody else can do that. You can't outsource that. And yet here I am doing something that somebody else could do, instead of doing the only thing that can be done here. I'm the only one that can spend one-on-one connected time with Rachel for our marriage And yet I'm like, oh, sorry, babe. I got to work on the car. Like, that just doesn't make any sense to me, because any mechanic can work on the car. Right? Oh man, this stuff's so powerful.
And essentially, I think that's a very powerful way of describing the underlying motivation behind taking this approach, is that you're trying to orchestrate your life in a way that you have more time for the things that really matter that only you can do.
Yep.
And so I just wanted to add before we get to the rest of the comments is, if there's something that needs to be done, what I like to do is I offer it up to my kids as a paid job, saying, I'm going to hire someone to do this. Does anyone want it first? And some of the kids will take me up on it. Oh yeah, like cleaning the bathrooms is one of them. Actually, the kids have not taken me up on that one. I hire someone once a month to come clean just my bathrooms because I want a deep clean on those.
That goes with, let's read Stephanie's question because it fits perfectly.
And they didn't take me up on that job. Nobody wanted to do, well, actually my oldest daughter did it when she was here and I would pay her, but now she's moved out and the rest of the kids are like, no
thanks on that one.
I don't want to do that even if it's paid. And okay, that's fine. I'll hire someone else to do that. But then, okay, let's read Stephanie's. When hiring your kids, where do you draw the line between jobs and chores that are just part of being a part of the family and jobs that you pay but are still household jobs? Yes, great point. So that ties in perfectly with this. So I don't know that there's a hard, fast boundary. I think it's always kind of in flux, and it depends on how I feel in a way. Like if my kids are like, will you pay me for this job? I might just kind of feel like, no, I think that's a job you just do because you live, right? Because you're alive. So things like laundry, dishes.
You got to help them understand it first.
Yes, you have to understand the principle.
And I think the principle is, if by you being alive, it creates some of this job, then just for the fact of being alive and being here, you need to carry some of that load.
Yeah.
And if you can teach that tactfully and repeatedly.
Sorry, I'm interrupting. Like, straightening up your bathroom. You don't have to necessarily do a deep clean on it, but you should keep it straightened.
Because you use it.
Because you use it. Your clothes, of course. The food you eat and the dishes you use. That kind of stuff. That's something that they would be doing if they lived on their own. Like, that's the basics of being alive, like you were saying. I interrupted.
And then we'll even teach the exchange rate. This one's fun, because we'll teach the exchange rate where, like, and I'll teach them, I'll be like, hey, and not in like in a manipulative or weird way. I'll be like, hey guys, how about I buy the groceries and you guys do the dishes? Right? How's that? And because I'm happy to do the dishes if you will pay for all the groceries for dinner. Okay, here's the bill. And they're like, we got the dishes. Right? And they start getting a sense of like, oh, okay, we each have a role, and mom and dad are carrying way more of the load that we're not even capable of carrying. Yeah, we'll totally do our part.
Yeah.
Right? And we sat down, we told you guys this before, we sat down with them and we went through each little expense, every single expense, and tried to give them a dollar amount. I'm like, hey, this is just for you being here alive in our home. This is the dollar amount it costs. And they were like, what?
This is how much you cost us.
You cost us. You are not free. Although it seems like you're free. You just run along. I do whatever I want. Like, it all has a cost. So when they understand that they're helping with the cost
of them being alive,
which was really cool that day, we said, how much can you earn right now? If you were to go get a job, how much can you earn? And at the time, they were like $8 an hour. Right, with COVID measures now, like you get a signing bonus, you get paid double. but if they were like, yeah, I get a job for $8 an hour, right? I'm like, yeah, your skill level is about $8 an hour. And then we added up how many hours a week could you legitimately work, and all the hours they worked couldn't even cover the costs of them being alive in our family. It was a really humbling, special moment. They're like, wow. Even if I went out and worked full time at that price, I couldn't cover the classes you guys are paying for, the healthy food, the house, the benefits, all the cool things
internet.
we do. I couldn't even cover it. Right? It was really, again, helpful, insightful, so that they could see it and get it.
Yes. And so then, as far as the paid jobs, that generally applies to things that again, this is where it gets challenging because we have a house, and with a house comes responsibilities, and we want to maintain it and take care of it. And so if they were in that situation, that would be a part of it. But since that's our situation and I want it done, I would likely be hiring someone if I didn't hire my kids to do it. So if it's kind of the job where I would be hiring someone to do it anyways, say I didn't have any capable children in the house, right? I didn't have teenagers that could do it. And so I'd have to hire someone to chop wood or wash my windows or pressure wash my house. Then those are the jobs that I will pay them to do because I would have been hiring someone anyways, if that makes sense. So that's generally how I weigh it. If I'm like, this is a job that I would hire out, then I will say to them, hey, this is the job I want done. Do you want this job? And this is how much I'll pay for it.
Another thought for me is if I know that something needs to be done, like the oil needs to be changed on the car, and you take it to the mechanic, or you go get cleaned or something, and I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to go do that. I'm like, man, I could be doing other work that's higher value, and then I'll say, hey, I'll tell one of the kids, hey, will you go ahead and go clean, go detail the vehicles, right? And I'll pay them for it. But even sometimes, and the kids are cool with it, they'll ask them like, hey, the van needs to be done. They're like, is it a paid job? I'm like, no, not this time. And they're like, okay, right? Because they get that they got to do their part. And
especially after a trip or something, right. And we got back and we're like, we all made a mess of this van on this trip. Like, this is one of the things we have to do to get back to normal life, clean out the van. Yeah. So it's it takes some intuition maybe, and some just feeling it out, like what feels fair kind of thing. Like, does it feel fair to pay for this job? All right, I'll do that. Or does it feel more like, hey, this is one of those jobs that I think it's part of your living expense. Yeah. Okay.
So I think just some general principles here I want to touch on. You can hire virtual assistants. I know parents who hire virtual assistants. You can hire cleaners. I have a client right now, super awesome, but man, she just feels so bad having cleaners in her house. And I was like, what is it? And she's like, well, I feel like there's a stranger in my house, and so I can't even be in my house. So if they're in the kitchen, I can't go in the kitchen. I'm like, man, just go in the kitchen. She's like, but I'll make a mess, and they're in there. They're just cleaning it up. Like, that's why they're there. Like, and she'll go around and clean up the house before they get there. I'm like, you're defeating the purpose. Like, they're here to help you clean. Like, it's okay if it's messy. He's like, yeah, but I'm like, yeah, it's a mess. It's okay. Like free that up and kind of free up that space. And so, like, whatever the hesitation is, whatever the obstacle is, like, work through it, think through it. Like, is it a money thing? Is it I don't want somebody in my space thing? Or I feel guilty? Like, why do you feel guilty? Where is that coming from? Walk through all those things and then weigh it out. Like, if I don't have to do this anymore for the rest of my life, what does that free me up to do or become? Mm-hmm. Like, what's this costing you? Because there's an exchange rate for that.
What is it costing you? I like that. What is this? Because we don't want to hire it out because it's going to cost us money. But what is it costing you if you don't hire it out? What are you giving up instead? What are you not doing? What are you not becoming? What are you not achieving because you're doing this thing that you're not valuing your own time and your own monetary value while you keep doing it?
Huge. So hire your kids, hire neighbor kids, young adults nearby.
Lawn care services, grocery delivery services, Amazon delivery, like any way that you can think. I used to even sometimes I would go when I went to the store and went shopping. Like, this is when I started to get into the idea of outsourcing. I started buying the pre-cut vegetables because I'm like, I'm saving myself time as the food preparer. What's the name in the restaurant? The prep chef, whatever. I'm saving myself time in that role by buying pre-cut vegetables. Even though they're more expensive per pound, that's a form of outsourcing for me because I'm now saving myself time preparing food before I prepare the meal. So just start thinking of it in different little ways like that. How could, in all the things you're doing throughout the day, just going through your normal routine, start asking yourself, how could I outsource this somehow? Can I have it delivered? Can I have it done for me? Can I have it done by someone else? Can I eliminate it altogether? Like, how can I make my time more valuable so that I can focus it on the things that are more important?
And you can do this with every aspect of your life. Even finding a really good cookbook, right? That's kind of aligned with your taste and health philosophies. Like there you have this book now, and like there's all these meals. So instead of like, what should we eat? I don't know what to eat. What should I decide?
Yeah.
Like, here's this book, and then here's the best part. You take that book and you hand it to one of your older kids. You're like, feed us, right?
Well, or this is another perfect example. I use an app that's called eMeals. It costs me $40 a year, but again, that's outsourcing. And then all I have to do, I pick the diet I want, right? Because you can pick budget friendly, or you can pick for kids, or you can pick paleo or keto or whole foods, whatever. They have all these different options, and I pick that. And then every week it says, here's the recipes for this week. And I look through the recipes and I click add. It creates my shopping list. Takes me right over to Walmart where I check out and the groceries are delivered. So that's another way I've outsourced my meal planning and grocery shopping just by using an app that costs me $40 a year. For me, that's worth it. It saves me hours of time planning meals and looking for recipes and making shopping lists. Okay, that's it.
Any questions? Any conundrums? Any struggles?
This final, there's another follow-up comment from Amy about her mother helping out. She says, yes, that's how I see it. I don't know if it's because my husband's parents aren't willing and that's why he feels guilty. Yes, that could be
Makes
it.
sense.
And in that case, yeah, don't use them if they don't want to be used. That's pretty simple. And then if your mom, that sounds wrong. If they don't want to be used. If your mom wants to be used, use her. If your mom wants to help out, then yeah, let her help. Let her contribute, because that apparently is bringing a sense of meaning and value to her life. So the name of the app is eMeals. So it's like
just the letter
email, but meals,
meals.
like, meals, eating, eMeals. Yeah. Okay.
If there's not anything else, we expect you all to go hire a whole bunch of people starting today.
Or at least one. One way to outsource
But
today.
Honestly, I think the best thing you can start doing immediately is go through and look at every aspect of your life and start saying, how could I outsource parts of it? Even with Rachel, what Rachel was saying, there are apps, there are solutions. Like you can start, if you take every part of your life, let's say if you could break it into chunks and it's taking you an hour and you could get it to 45 minutes and you start freeing up 15-minute blocks multiple times throughout your day, that's massive.
And magic.
Like 30 minutes a day turns into 22 8-hour work days in a year. 22 full 8-hour work days. Like, what could you do with that over the year? Like, there's so much. You could start learning instruments or painting or exercising more, or learning more, exploring things, like whatever. It just opens you up to be better you. And so look for ways. And again, don't dismiss it and say, well, I can't do that. I'll never do that. Or we can't afford that. Just say, well, how could we afford that? How could I make that work? If that won't work, how could I find something that will work? If this child can't do that, what could this child do? Or I've tried to train them. Like, how could I train this child? What would motivate them? What would
Asking
work?
yourselves the right question makes all the difference.
Will change everything. Okay. Love you guys.
Okay.
You're the best. Thanks for being awesome parents. Reach upward.